try to understand everything that we say. It comes from a place of love. Like I said, we want people to be happy. We want people to get along. We don't want there to be harassment, right? We're just saying, let's put forth actual solutions to actual problems. Let's really discuss it. Let's hear things from both sides, right? What actually happens in these situations and how do we resolve them to get the best solution for everybody? That's what we want. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, here we are from central London looking at a place called the Rum Kitchen and Dirty Bones. Have you got dirty bones, Luke?
George, my bones are delectable and clean and fresh as a daisy.
I've always got a dirty bone. My bone's always dirty, just for you. Anyway.
Only you though, just you.
We got short amount of time here in this wonderful space to talk, and we're being quite quiet because we don't want to disrupt all of the workers and all of the employees here who have so wonderfully, kindly, generously given up their space just so that we can sit here and talk to you. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that wonderful? Now, is there anything in particular you'd like to talk about? Because I have a topic of conversation from the news, from the Evening Standard paper, which I picked up on the train today.
George, tell us. I wait with bated breath. My ears are poised.
What's going on in the world? What's going on in the world today? Well, here's what it is, right? And it's a bit of a serious topic. Okay. So we're going to make it as unserious as possible. In fact, I'm so unserious, okay, I turned my jacket inside out for this video. Look at that. Inside out jacket. Because I thought, this is much better, isn't it? This is like Will Smith in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when he turns his high school blazer inside out, because it's better that way. It's funkier. It's like the 80s. So anyway, what happened is I was reading the Evening Standard,
right,
and this is what it says. Parents need to be aware of the dangers of online pornography and must teach their children about consent early. And the point is there have been thousands and thousands of girls in secondary schools around the UK who have made complaints about boys allegedly harassing them, teenage boys harassing teenage girls. We don't know the ins and outs because they haven't actually published, so far as I've seen, any individual story.
Sure.
They're just saying 10,000 or so girls have complained to having been essentially potentially molested or harassed in some way. And what is being blamed is pornography. And they are saying that parents, you, if you're a parent, you must teach your child that pornography and real consensual sex are not the same thing, and they're saying pornography is to blame for the harassment taking place in secondary schools around London now and however long it's been going on for. Now, I'm going to give you one honest opinion and then you can launch into it.
I'd love to launch into it.
So would I.
Not, you know.
But I was thinking, I know it's a serious topic and all of that, but educating children to say what you see in porn, right, is not real life and it's not how to treat the girls you meet at school is so stupid. I was just reading it going, I can't actually believe it. Now, number one, right, if there's truth to it, all right, then I'll eventually be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that, fair enough. But the thing is oftentimes, you know, I remember when guys actually used to go into shops back there in Soho, right? And you'd see them, and I used to find it quite amusing because you see these guys and they'd stand outside the shops like this, hoping nobody noticed them as they sort of slipped into a door. Do you remember they used to have those little, like, trail curtains, you know, thin strip
fondly,
curtains?
George, fondly.
And they'd slip in there, and then they'd come out with a black bag which had some kind of pornographic VHS tape. And those guys were always like this, like super, super shy. My point being, these guys are too afraid to even speak to women, let alone try to act out the kinds of things that they were watching on these amorous videotapes, right? But the thing is, if we extend that to kids watching pornography, just because a kid has discovered porn on the internet doesn't mean that he has the confidence to actually speak to women anyway. And it certainly doesn't mean he's the kind of person who will actually try to enact that. Now, I could go on and on about it. Let's hear what you have to say, and then I'll carry on.
All I'll say is this. Obviously, any kind of sexual harassment of any kind is not on, right? That's a given. Like, that should not be happening. He agrees. But I will say this. Sexual harassment in schools and things like that have been going on for forever. For as long as schools have been around, for as long as there's been human beings, these kind of things have been going on, like in terms of like highly charged, testosterone fueled boys getting in certain situations where they're crossing the line.
Trying it on
And crossing the line. Now, that is out of order and it should not be happening. But to say that now it's a kind of maybe because of pornography and that's why it's happening is ridiculous, because I know generations, I've spoken to women who are much older than me, women who went to school in the 50s, right? In the 60s, they went through some messed up shit, man. They had to deal with some probably actually worse, much worse than what's going on today.
I can
and
tell
that's
you
not to
things from my own
excuse
family that I won't divulge, but
not to excuse what's going on today, because any kind of that activity is wrong. But to think it's getting worse, or to blame it on online
probably made it.
is
It's probably
not.
made it better, because you probably got teenagers at home who are fucking whacking off
We're
so
releasing-
much, right? But yeah, most of that kind of like energy is coming out. So they're not
That's a good
going in
point.
there with like raging hard-ons.
I do think though that there is something to that potentially pornography can give young boys a twisted perspective on maybe sexual exploits with a woman, and there is potentially something to that. And that is an interesting subject which I'd like to get into more, and I do think that's why the things that you do, George, helping men to understand what it is to communicate with the opposite sex, is so important and so powerful. You do a fantastic job.
And the thing, thanks. And the thing is that's one of the reasons that article bothered me so much, because I know firsthand that just sitting a kid down and saying, listen, this pornography you watch, right, that's not how to deal with women, that's not going to solve the problem, because you haven't actually given them any real instruction.
Real advice.
You haven't actually said, listen, here's a roadmap to actually get to where it is you want to be going, i.e., oh, you want to get with that girl? Let me give you a bit of help. What advice would you give?
Have many different interests and like know how to talk about it.
And here's the other thing, which was sort of boggling my mind. I was thinking, pornography is a byproduct of kind of two things. One is it's a suppression of sex, or a repression of sex. I.e., if everybody was out, right, like having sex all the time, having a great time, they wouldn't be watching pornography, they wouldn't be tuning into it, or certainly they wouldn't be tuning into it as much, would they? Because it's normally those who are not having it who are watching it. That's why it kind of exists, right? There's a saying that Erica Jong said in her brilliant book, Parachutes and Kisses. I won't find the exact line because it's about a 500-page book. Amazing book, read it. But she essentially says that pornography in the 70s was blamed for encouraging people to have sort of like, crass, non-religious sex, as opposed to the reality, she says, that it is the desire for sex that inspired the porn. It is not porn that inspired the desire for sex, right? Now that's the truth. Written by a woman, I might add, not a man trying to like get off with some girl at his high school. But the other thing that bothered me is I was thinking, well, okay, you're going to try and ban porn or say this is bad, or tell kids that they shouldn't watch it. What are they going to ban next? Like male fantasy? I mean, much of pornography is aimed at men, and all it is essentially a male fantasy. It's the jokey like, oh, would you like to come in and clean my pipes, right? It's just male fantasy projected onto screen, right? Sure. It's not real, but the point is if you stop it in porn, you're not going to stop it in a man's fantasy. The man, teenager, even worse when you're a teenager, right? If he likes that girl at school, he is going to be thinking about her. He is going to be fantasizing about her, whether he has a fucking screen or not, all right? And his fantasies, guess what, are probably not, oh, should I buy her a box of chocolates? Should I buy her? I can't wait for that night when we get to sit under the moon.
Like that, George.
No, true, right? There were certain girls when I was younger where 100% I was like, I want to lie under the stars, I want to have a wonderful time. But interspersed with that, there were
some slightly more racier moments.
Yes, slightly racier moments. And you tended not to just... Well, you didn't even know what you were doing when you were that age. It was literally like, well, how do I get to those racy moments? Don't know. But those delightful flashes through the mind, they happen. And it's not because of porn, right? They exist in porn because they started off in somebody's mind. And my point is I was reading this fucking thing in the newspaper going, I admit it's a problem. I acknowledge it's a problem. Trust me. I know it's a problem probably better than most of those fucking people who write that shit and have talked about it. Because I've had to deal with some of those teenagers and I've had to help them step by step, take them by the hand. And unlike those fucking idiots, right? And I know that's harsh, but no, the people saying, just talk to them about porn, right?
Yeah.
You have to give them actual help. This is one of the problems, you complimented my thing. But I read it and went, put me in a fucking school, put me on the stage, I will give them advice. to how to speak to the opposite sex, how to go on dates, right? How to be totally consensual. It's becoming more and more necessary. If you don't think it's necessary, look at the fucking statistics of all of the girls complaining, right? Clearly the guys
don't know what they're doing.
Right? But you can't tell them to just stop watching porn and go, that's not real. Like, that's not going to solve the problem.
Solve the problem at all. It's just gonna contain the problem and bottle it up even more, and it might even become an explosion of more frustration and anger, and potentially dangerous situations evolving from that. So I think the problem with the news is often it's bad news, right? They tell you what you shouldn't be doing, but they don't tell you what you should be doing.
Exactly that.
Right? And that's why we're here, guys. We're going to tell you what you need to do.
Proud of himself that he was a gentleman. I'm like, okay, you're doing the standard, babes.
Personalised bouquet of flowers.
Yeah, no, that was cute. That was cute.
One.
That was cute, but...
So you had something to take home with you, just not him.
Yeah, no.
How long was that date, like, out of curiosity? I'm wondering how long you put up with it.
A long time.
She saw it through.
It was probably like 20 minutes and it felt like a long time.
It was like, it was like 16 hours.
16 hours! And the other thing is, I've got to say, I'm noticing this so much. Who was I speaking to? I was speaking to a girl yesterday.
Really?
I can't remember where the hell I met her. Oh, I know. It was two girls. It was two girls from Greece, okay? And I was chatting to these two girls, by coincidence, happened to be at a bus stop. And one of them said she was in a relationship. And she said that she was finding that her and her friend were getting upset in their relationships, and they're only in their 20s, because they said that, affection needs to be a two-way street. And they said, we're quite affectionate with our boyfriends, but like the boys are a little bit standoffish and they don't really touch us. And I was like, that's crazy. But the thing is I actually remember, because of a lot of this culture, what it felt like when you hear all this stuff in the news, to be like, even if it's your girlfriend, like, well, I don't want to be too pushy. I don't want her to think I'm a misogynist. And you literally, like, even the thought of just like touching her up when she's already like going out with you.
Dating her, you're actually seeing her.
You constantly wait for her to make the first moves, which is completely wrong. And she even said to me, no, I don't tell him, because I expect him to know what he's doing, and I wait for him to make kind of the right moves. But she said how it's really damaging the relationship. And I reflect on my own past, which is fucking depressing, because I remember like a girl I was completely in love with, and we were going out together, and the amount of hints and signs and gestures and all these things she gave me in the eyes, and leaning her, exposing her neck, sort of like rubbing it, which is, she's unaware, but it's a sign of like, come on, this interest, trust, all this sort of things, touching me. And I would still be like standoffish, because I didn't want to push anything, right? It's all got to be on her terms.
As long as you just didn't want to offend, any chance of offending, you just didn't want to risk it.
Didn't want to risk it. But the byproduct of all of this over politeness is that women end up in relationships with men and they're like, oh my God, he's not even doing it. And then all the men are scared, right? And all the women are disappointed. And then all you end up with is this pent-up need and desire for sexuality or sex, which is like champagne, and it's being shaken up, and eventually that lid's going to come off and it's just going to fucking explode.
And it ain't going to taste like champagne, I can tell you that.
No.
It's not going to be nice.
And chances are it's going to be worse. Like, you talk about this sort of rape culture. If you just suppress it, don't do that, don't speak to women, don't watch pornography, don't have any fantasies at all, right? It's just, eventually it's just going to go the other way. So what you said, exactly what Luke said, listen to him.
What did I say? You
said, cut it back in. He said they're not giving them, they're telling them what not to do, but they're not telling them what to do. On average, 3 locations on one date is perfect. And that could be like 40 minutes in each location. It doesn't have to be a long time. It could be like, let's sit here and have a cup of tea for 40 minutes on a bench. Let's go to a bar I know that's here, and we'll sit here for an hour or 30 minutes, whatever. Whatever feels comfortable. And it feels suddenly like...
Maybe that's why I did okay last Saturday.
Definitely, yeah. That's why I said...
Like I said, we ended up going to loads of places that we didn't actually go to, but we went to loads of places still.
Exactly. So you still had that journey and experience. Whatever you went through that morning...
Even worse story.
Tell it.
Oh my goodness. We were talking over FaceTime for like a couple of days, and I was like proper falling in love. I was like, this guy is amazing. We met in public, and like he comes over to my house. He's like, oh, do I need to take off my shoes? I'm like, yeah. So then we go upstairs and we're chilling, and then I just smell this really strong smell. I just smelled this really strong smell. And then I was like, no, surely. And then we were like,
It wasn't flowers this time.
no, and we got. I think you know better than me. You're like, you're weird, goodbye. Whereas I'm like,
16 hours later.
Yeah.
So to sum this up, guys, you're a human being, I'm a human being, we're all human beings, we're in this together. We should not be ashamed of our sexual desires, of our emotions, of our feelings, but we just need to find ways in which to express them, in which to connect, in which to learn and grow and evolve so that we can connect with the opposite sex in a healthy way and maybe perhaps even, you know, get some action. Mutually beneficial
Read
action.
my book as well, because, you know,
Have you got a book, George?
I have got a book on this subject, which you can read. It's called The Cure for Loneliness, and it will give you certain tips, certain tricks, and quite a lot of advice, including some of my own experiences that went haphazard and went wrong, because I'm not out there pretending that everything is just a perfect rainbow that always works out. No, you learn from your mistakes, don't you? So those are in there too. But really, people have written to me and said it was an uplifting book and it impacted them. And I've even had people, someone even wrote to me from China telling me that he's in a relationship with a girl he met on a train after reading that book. He said he finished the book while he was on the train, and he said he was so inspired that there was a girl sitting next to him and he started speaking to her, and he said now they're dating and it's going well. His exact words, now we're dating and it's going well. That really cheered me up.
That could be you.
It could be you, and guess what? You know, she actually likes him and they enjoy each other's company, and she ain't written to someone to print it in the Evening Standard and say that this person is, you know, harassing her. And I bet you he watches less porn than he probably did, you know, a few weeks ago.
I'm sure. He's in a healthy relationship now, George.
He is in a healthy relationship right now. That could be you. But maybe you don't need a healthy relationship. Maybe you just want to date and play the field, and that's okay too.
You can do whatever you want as long as it's, you know.
As long as it's consensual and she wants it too, then it's fine. But yeah, sorry, but that ain't gonna solve the problem, right? Porn is not the problem. More and more porn exists because less and less people are actually having sex. That's a problem, right? You want to get rid of porn, teach people how to actually interact
How to communicate
as
better.
human beings. How would you feel if actually the topic of dating and things was taught in schools as opposed to, you know?
Easier with boys because they don't get how to do that. They're like, so when they do it, when they try, they're like, hi, and then they're like, sometimes they're just like awkward, sometimes they're just pushing too far. So I think if they teach them how to do that, it'll be very much easier.
Be much better, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying sometimes the guys are either too scared or they're too forceful, but there isn't much in between.
There is no like the perfect middle in there. It's just because
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's a very common problem, and I've been saying for a long time they should definitely teach. I mean, funnily enough, certain guys who were giving good advice. Anyway, we better go because people have very politely given us the chance to speak here, but they didn't give us an endless amount of time. They got to close up their shops and all that
Closing
sort
up
of
the
stuff.
shops. We've got to close up as well, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, hit like. If you want it, then subscribe and you can see more of us. Helping, sharing, giving, receiving, loving. We love you. You love us. You know you do. And we'll see you soon. Peace out.
And that is the point. I've got to say it. I like the ending, but I know some people are going to take this the wrong way. It was a perfect ending. But sometimes people take it the wrong way because I know it from experience. Try to understand everything that we say. It comes from a place of love. Like I said, we want people to be happy. We want people to get along. We don't want there to be harassment, right? We're just saying, let's put forth actual solutions to actual problems. Let's really discuss it. Let's hear things from both sides, right? What actually happens in these situations and how do we resolve them to get the best solution for everybody? That's what we want. I'm not an enemy of the Evening Standard. I'm not an enemy of whoever's against all of that pornography. I'm just saying there might well be a better way. Let's talk about it. Let's put those cards on the table.
Basically, guys, what we need to do is less wanking, right, and more heart wanking, right? What does that mean? It means wanking from the heart. This is what I'm doing right now.
I always wank from the heart.
I'm wanking from the heart. I'm literally masturbating my heart with love to you, okay? And I want you to masturbate your heart back to me, all right? We're gonna masturbate our hearts together and we're gonna spread our love seeds, our love juice all over the world, all right?
Grow.
They're gonna grow, they're gonna evolve, they're gonna flow. The whole street's gonna be flooded with heart wanking juice, right? And you're gonna embrace it, you're gonna swim in it, you're gonna dance in it, and you're gonna love it, right? Why are you gonna love it? Because you are love. You're gonna embrace yourself, baby. And that's why we're here. We're here to help each other. We're here to love each other. So keep wanking from the heart. I'm gonna wank all over the world, right? From the heart. We're gonna masturbate all over the world. We're gonna send love juice all over the world. Everyone's gonna look around and they're just gonna be flooded by it. They're gonna be dripping in heart juice, right? Heart masturbation. And that's what you need to do, guys. You need to masturbate from your heart. You're going too low. That place, you can just keep settled, keep isolated, keep grounded. You need to ground yourself. You need to feel your heartbeat, and you need to beat from the heart. You need to beat that heart off. That's what you need to do, guys. Beat your heart off, spread that juice, spread that love. Just explore the world through the heart. And how do you do that?
Wanking.
That's it.
Woo! It's just going to be a giant sea of effluvia.
Right, just embrace that ecstasy, embrace that love, right? Feel your heart, masturbate from the heart.
And if you do that, then maybe you'll stop masturbating and you'll actually connect with a fellow human being.
That's the point, George. If you masturbate from your heart, if you spread love from your heart, then guess what? You might even get to spread love from the other part of your body. But first, you should connect and communicate it from here before you start going down there. You might start to realize that, you know what? Life is good. Life is great. Life is wonderful. And then you can heart wank all over it, George. You can just keep heart wanking all over the world, and you can just shake it all off, right? Spread all that juice. Open
that much.
wide. Enjoy it, guys. We love you.
Open wide.
See you soon. Say goodbye, George.
Goodbye, George. Now, you can learn from what he just did. Do you see how he did that, right? It was consensual, wasn't it? that was it. It was consensual.
Thank God for that.
He didn't force himself on me. He didn't put his hands on me. He just stood up and he made a joke. He made a gesture. Had I wanted to go along with it, you know, it might have been a really good video. But anyway,
If you want to know what happened next, stay tuned for the next video, guys.
tune on to Pornhub and you'll see the next bit.